How are you, friends? I want to address a very important topic today, or what I think is important. Not that everybody else thinks it's important, they're more interested in other things. But I want to raise a very important point, in my opinion, which is what is the real objective reality? Because all of mainstream science right now defines objective reality as observer independent. That's why it's objective. It's independent of our perceptions. I want to argue or articulate that while that is a very useful mainstream definition that has allowed us to create technology, including the one we're using right now on this video, and transmitting it to you wherever you are through space and time, that the objective reality as defined by science, which claims that objective reality is observer independent, is not the real objective reality. It's useful for creating technology, but actually hides fundamental truth. So let me share with you my argument. All observations are in consciousness, correct? So while consciousness is not included in mainstream scientific investigations, it still defines objective reality, which is observer dependent, based on human perceptions. And if it is based on human perception, then how can it be objective? So let's unpack this a little bit. The debate over the nature of objective reality versus subjective perception, of course, has been going on for a long time between philosophers, scientists, scholars, etc. Objective reality is traditionally defined as that which exists independently of any observer's perceptions. However, I'm arguing that all observations occur within consciousness, and that consciousness itself might be the only true objective reality. So I want to explore this argument, examining the interplay between consciousness and objective reality. Let's take the traditional view first. Objective reality is understood as the world existing independently of our perceptions. This view posits that there are facts and entities whose existence does not rely on being perceived by a conscious observer. In this argument, a tree in a forest exists whether or not anyone is there to see it. You've probably heard the phrase, what is the sound of a tree falling in the forest is there if there's no one to hear it. In any case, this perspective aligns with the common sense view of the world and is foundational to scientific inquiry, which seeks to uncover universal truths through observation and experimentation. So what's the role of consciousness in perception? Consciousness refers to the state of being aware of and able to think about one's surroundings, one's thoughts, and one's experiences. All human experiences and observations are mediated through consciousness, which processes sensory inputs and constructs a coherent picture of reality. Neuroscientific research suggests that our perceptions are not direct reflections of the so-called external world. I don't believe there's such a thing. But in any case, neuroscience research suggests that our perspectives are not direct reflections of the external world, but are instead constructed by our brains. No, constructed by our minds. Okay. Conditioned minds, scientifically conditioned minds. which have their correlates in our brains. In any case, the argument is that the sweetness of an apple or the color green are not properties of the objects themselves, but subjective experiences generated by our minds. So, what are the challenges to objective reality? Here they are in order, not necessarily in order of importance, but here are the challenges. Number one, subjective perception. Our sensory experiences are subjective and can differ significantly between individuals. What one person perceives as red might appear slightly different to another, raising questions about the existence of a universally objective reality. Two, quantum mechanics. In quantum physics, the act of observation affects the state of particles, suggesting that the observer plays a crucial role in shaping reality. This phenomenon, known as observer effect, implies that reality is not entirely independent of consciousness. Of course, there are scientists now who suggest that the physical world is a product of our minds, and space and time are constructs shaped by our perceptions. This perspective suggests that without consciousness, the universe as we know it would not exist. Okay, given that all observations and experiences are within consciousness, one could argue that consciousness is the only true objective reality. This argument hinges on several key points. Number one, dependence on consciousness. Since we can only access the world through our conscious experiences, it is impossible to verify the existence of an objective reality independent of consciousness. Everything we know and understand is filtered through our conscious minds. Two, unified experience. Consciousness provides a unified experience of reality, integrating sensory inputs and cognitive processes into a coherent whole. This unified experience is the basis of our understanding of the world, suggesting that consciousness is the primary reality. And then, we go back to philosophers, the sages of the Upanishads, but also philosophers like Immanuel Kant, who have argued that we cannot know the thing in itself, the objective reality, but only the phenomena, the reality as it appears to us. This view supports the idea that our conscious experience is the closest we can get to objective reality. So I want to conclude by saying that the argument I've presented is that consciousness is the only objective reality, and it challenges traditional views of an observer-independent world. While objective reality, as commonly understood, posits the existence of an external world independent of perception, the role of consciousness in shaping our experiences suggests that what we perceive as reality is deeply intertwined with our conscious awareness. This perspective invites us to reevaluate the nature of reality, emphasizing the fundamental role of consciousness in constructing our understanding of the world. So, what is objective reality? Consciousness, the undifferentiated consciousness that differentiates itself into species-specific modes of knowing and experience. And the human experience is what we call objective reality, but it is not. The only objective reality is consciousness itself, pure consciousness itself. Let me know if you find this useful, and you can engage with me on digitaldeepak.ai, and I'll be happy to continue this conversation. And remember that digital Dharma is available for you and will guide you on how to use AI to elevate spiritual intelligence and much more.